One is a 26-year-old young and beautiful American female master's degree holder, while the other is a 35-year-old security guard from Henan with only a middle school diploma. What's surprising is that the female master's degree holder was completely captivated by the smile of this young man from Henan.
他很帅，我看他笑很大，帅，我要知道他。
What is even more unexpected is that the female master's degree holder did not just have a passing infatuation, but she actually fell deeply in love. Even when the surprised Henan man repeatedly rejected her, the female master's degree holder continued to pursue him relentlessly. She even wrote an entire diary to express her longing for him every day. In the end, she completely discarded traditional views and demanded no dowry, decisively walking into marriage with him. Now, over a decade later, how is their life after marriage? The man standing before her, who could almost pass for a celebrity, is named Kai Xiaohua. He is from a small mountain village in Henan, and his family was extremely poor. When he was 10 years old, his mother, unable to bear the poverty, chose to leave. His father could only make ends meet by working as a farmer while raising Kai Xiaohua and his 3 younger sisters. Seeing his aging father, the thoughtful Kai Xiaohua dropped out of school before finishing middle school to support the family. After entering society, he, at a young age, faced many hardships. However, he never complained, and every month, he sent money home to support his family. Kai Xiaohua wandered for nearly 20 years, with his 2 younger sisters eventually marrying and leaving the village. Despite being busy making a living, Kai Xiaohua remained single until he was 35. In 2007, at the age of 35, Kai Xiaohua followed a fellow villager south to Guangzhou. However, without a diploma or any special skills, he initially struggled to find a job. After continuous effort, he finally secured a position as a security guard at an international school. Though the salary wasn't high, the job provided meals and lodging, allowing him to settle temporarily in Guangzhou. As it was an international school, the students and teachers were from all over the world. Shy Kai Xiaohua could only greet them with his healing smile. Over time, Kai Xiaohua's sincere smile won the favor of more and more students and teachers. Tiffany, an American foreign teacher, was one of them. Tiffany, 26, was born in the United States and was truly a rich and beautiful girl. Her mother was a university professor, and both her father and brother were well-known local entrepreneurs. This beautiful and talented rich girl, however, fell in love at first sight with security guard Kai Xiaohua. To get closer to him, Tiffany would intentionally strike up conversations with him on her way to and from work. However, due to language barriers, Tiffany could only gesture with her hands and body. Later, she resorted to drawing pictures. A mouth to indicate she wanted to have a meal with him, a street to indicate she wanted to go shopping. Gradually, the two built a perfect understanding. Kai Xiaohua could always understand her intentions.
我要去3点，可是我不知道3点。我要去买东西，他很聪明，他很快知道，你要去3点。我说3点，对，3点，我要去3点。
As their relationship deepened, Tiffany found that Kai Xiaohua was not only handsome, but also had an impeccable character. He was very kind, often helping elderly people and children cross the street. He was meticulous at work, and no matter the person's status, he always greeted them with his signature smile.
他的心很好，是老板，他说你，他给你笑；是保安，他说你，他给你笑。
What truly moved Tiffany was Kai Xiaohua's thoughtfulness. There was a period when Tiffany fell ill and took a few days off from school. Unable to communicate due to the language barrier, she was too afraid to go to the hospital alone and had to tough it out at home. Meanwhile, Kai Xiaohua had not seen Tiffany for several days and became very concerned. He asked the school leadership for her address, then took her to the hospital. For the next few days after finishing work, Kai Xiaohua would go to the hospital to care for Tiffany, preparing meals and bringing her fruit. At this point, Kai Xiaohua had completely won Tiffany's heart. Not long after she was discharged, Tiffany proactively pursued Kai Xiaohua and openly declared her love for him. However, they had only known each other for less than half a year, which left Kai Xiaohua feeling flattered.
他对我表白，我觉得挺自然。
Although Kai Xiaohua was deeply attracted to Tiffany, their educational background, status, and social standing were worlds apart. This led Kai Xiaohua to always believe that Tiffany's feelings were just a fleeting infatuation. To his surprise, Tiffany, after being rejected by him several times, pursued him even more intensely. She was adamant that he was her true soulmate. On the other hand, Kai Xiaohua always felt they lived in different worlds, and that nothing could come of their relationship. Therefore, he took a month off from work to visit distant relatives in Yunnan, partly to give Tiffany some time to cool off. However, a month later, when Kai Xiaohua returned to the school, Tiffany handed him a diary. It was filled with English entries, and although Kai Xiaohua couldn't fully understand it, he could feel Tiffany's deep affection.
给我看他写的日记，每天他想我，当然我也能看得懂一点，然后看不懂的他也给我讲，就是特别感动。我想他确实觉得真心的喜欢我。
This gesture completely melted Kai Xiaohua's heart. He finally mustered the courage to be with Tiffany. To celebrate their relationship, Tiffany specifically took Kai Xiaohua to a high-end restaurant. However, Kai Xiaohua's slippers attracted odd looks from the other diners. Kai Xiaohua thought that he, being from a rural background, would never truly fit into Tiffany's world, and that having a Chinese boyfriend like him would only embarrass her. But to his surprise, Tiffany was completely unconcerned.
穿拖鞋怎么样？可不可以？他说，只要你高兴就可以，你穿什么都行。
I just care about him, and it doesn't matter to me what clothes he wears or what shoes he wears. Yeah. If he is happy and he feels comfortable, I'm happy.
Tiffany not only didn't care about the opinions of others, but she also took the initiative to introduce Kai Xiaohua to her parents in the U.S. Kai Xiaohua originally thought Tiffany's parents would object to their relationship. To his surprise, Tiffany's parents' response was beyond their expectations.
我问我的妈妈和我的爸爸，我说他们我希望一个男孩，他是中国人，我不知道可不可以。他们说如果我喜欢他，如果我们很好一起，很好，为什么不可以？
At this point, Kai Xiaohua no longer had any reservations and fell deeply in love with Tiffany. As the days went by, the two grew even more affectionate and sweet. After spending a few more months together, they decided to break free from the judgment of society and take the step into marriage. One day, Kai Xiaohua took out the savings he had accumulated over the years and gave Tiffany a wedding ring, bravely proposing to her.
Tiffany, 我很爱你，我很喜欢你，你很好，你嫁给我可以吗？
Seeing the timing was right, Kai Xiaohua introduced Tiffany to his parents and began discussing the wedding date. However, Kai Xiaohua's parents found it hard to believe, and the villagers started gossiping.
一开始也不相信，像家庭条件是这样的，找中国的还找不来，还想找外国的。
Everyone guessed this must be some kind of new scam. To ease his parents' concerns in 2008, Kai Xiaohua took Tiffany back to his hometown for the first time. This event caused a stir in the village, and villagers flocked over to see the foreign bride. Despite Kai Xiaohua's family being from a remote mountain village with almost nothing, Tiffany remained cheerful. Tiffany, graciously and confidently, greeted the villagers with the few Chinese words she knew. The villagers couldn't stop praising the foreign bride.
漂亮，漂亮。
好看，好看。你长好得很，不是你见过啊？外国的咱没见过，长得好。
In July 2008, they held a wedding in Kai Xiaohua's hometown, a grand affair that amazed everyone in the area. After the wedding, Tiffany decided to move to Zhengzhou with Kai Xiaohua, leaving her job in Guangzhou behind. Tiffany became a foreign teacher at Zhengzhou Light Industry College. But Kai Xiaohua, who had no job, was feeling increasingly distressed. Even though Tiffany's high salary was enough to cover both of their living expenses, Kai Xiaohua still didn't want to stay at home.
可能尽快准备找份工作吧。
小花没有上班，可能她不快乐，因为她不要坐在家很多没有干什么。
Later, Tiffany didn't mind the strange looks from her colleagues and students and took Kai Xiaohua with her to class. This not only kept Kai Xiaohua from staying at home with nothing to do, but it also helped improve his English skills. With Tiffany's help, Kai Xiaohua later became a Chinese teacher for an Australian couple.
我说我教你们，他好，特别高兴，特别激动了，哎呀，很激动了，挺高兴了，来我们这里教了一点。
Finally, Kai Xiaohua found his long-missed sense of purpose, and the couple's life slowly became more stable and even sweeter. Not long after their marriage, they were blessed with a child. However, Tiffany's pregnancy also brought their first crisis as a married couple. Tiffany's parents strongly urged her to return to the U.S. to give birth, as she would have access to private doctors and better care. But Tiffany refused, unwilling to be separated from Kai Xiaohua. However, during her pregnancy, Tiffany experienced severe morning sickness and had no appetite for food. Whether it was food that Kai Xiaohua bought from outside or what he made at home, Tiffany could only eat a few bites before vomiting. Kai Xiaohua, clearly growing impatient, upset Tiffany, which made her very unhappy.
心里边感觉很不痛快，憋着那个气。
他给我不快乐，可能我是他，你给我很多不快乐。
天涯没有不吵架的夫妻。
In the end, Tiffany decided to return to the U.S. to rest and care for the baby. When the plane took off, Kai Xiaohua thought that Tiffany wouldn't return. But to his surprise, only a month later, Tiffany came back to China. They embraced tightly at the airport, and she told him that she couldn't live without him. The following year, they welcomed a lovely daughter in China. During Tiffany's pregnancy and the birth, there was no income coming into their family, and their life was difficult. Tiffany's parents, upon hearing this, were heartbroken. With her father's strong capabilities, Tiffany and Kai Xiaohua were both arranged to move to the U.S. Tiffany's father arranged a job for her with an annual salary of 1 million yuan, while Kai Xiaohua didn't have to work at all and could stay home to take care of the child. Although it was rare for a woman to work and a man to stay at home in the U.S., this was the most practical family arrangement for them. In 2010, the couple held a Western-style wedding in the U.S. 2 years later, they had 2 handsome sons. Kai Xiaohua often sighed that ever since Tiffany entered his life, it felt like he was living in a dream. We can only say that Kai Xiaohua is truly lucky to have met Tiffany, who loves him sincerely, regardless of worldly judgment. Perhaps this is what they mean by love transcending mountains and seas. Mountains and seas can be crossed.
Kai Xiaohua and Tiffany's story transcends national boundaries, cultural differences, and social status, proving that true love has nothing to do with background or societal views. Kai Xiaohua touched Tiffany with his sincerity and smile, and Tiffany, without hesitation, stepped into this imperfect love. It was this courage and persistence that made their happiness unique. In a world full of distractions, we often chase after external things. But this love story teaches us that true happiness isn't about what we have, but about who we choose to spend our lives with. Kai Xiaohua and Tiffany's love is one of perseverance, acceptance, and selflessness. They show us that the power of love is not just sweetness, but also the choice and persistence in facing all difficulties. In our daily lives, love might not always be easy, but perhaps its true meaning lies in finding that one person worth being brave for, crossing all barriers to be with them, and protecting the one who gives you peace. Will you let go of all your prejudices for love and pursue the happiness that belongs to you? If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us, and we will continue to bring you better shows. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.